and welcome to one more episode of One on One in the Barn. Today we have a very, very special guest. I'm going to be talking to Marcos Boysen, the CEO for Smilink, and he has an incredible story. He's going to tell us all about Smilink and how he came up with his business. But what I really enjoy about the business is that it's a business that is made to put smiles on people's faces. So it's really interesting when you invest in a company who's trying to make people smile better and for a longer period of time. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Marcos Boysen, the CEO of Smilink. Marcos, thank you very much. I'm going to start you off with kind of the same script that I start most of the interviews, So please go ahead and tell us about you, a little bit about your history, and the reasons why you decided to start a business like Smilink.
Perfect. First of all, Flavio, thank you very much for inviting me to this interview. It's a pleasure to tell you a little more about what we are building. Telling a little bit about me, I've been working all my life in private equity. I moved from Argentina to Brazil like 6 years ago. And when I was working here, I figured out the potential of this country to create a company, huge market, relatively very interesting ecosystem in terms of startups. So I get motivated on beginning a business by myself. What we do in Smilink basically is to provide modern and accessible orthodontic treatments through 3D technology of clear aligners, which is an incredible technology, which is a set of plates that we design and print with 3D technology, resulting in a faster, more precise, much more aesthetic and comfortable treatment than conventional ones. And two, we integrate the value chain from production to customer and improve all the treatment process through technology, which basically standardizes treatments, delivers quality, and reduce drastically visits to the orthodontist. The results of this is a shorter, aesthetic, simple treatment and around 60% cheaper than similar treatments. Given that, we are expanding the addressable market and we are working hard on that mission. Continuing, why we do this? Basically, in Smilink, we believe everyone has a right to achieve the best version of their smile. Here in Brazil, like 2 million orthodontic treatments are performed per year, which represents one of the largest markets in the world. However, clear aligners have yet a very small penetration, like 2-3% versus 40% in the US. The product is in the beginning of the adoption curve, and that's basically because of lack of affordable and convenient options in the market. And that's our mission, basically. People are beginning to know the technology, and adoption via our model is growing very fast. So there is also a confidence barrier. People are still not sure if this technology really works. And the answer of that is the number of successful cases that we are accumulating. And we also are working hard to give visibility to cross this barrier.
But what really drew our attention to invest, aside from the team and yourself, is the market that you're in, right? I mean, you are in an orthodontic market, but you're also in a beauty and cosmetics market, and Brazil is the third or the fourth largest market for that. And when we look at specifically at dental treatments, most of the treatments are highly inaccessible for the regular Brazilian. So, the combination between a very good quality product such as Smilink, a direct-to-consumer way to sell, and other ways to sell that you will explain, and a very reasonable price that can be paid in several installments really called our attention to this investment, and we've been seeing what's been happening to the company. So if I want to be a customer, where can I find Smilink today, and what would be a normal, traditional customer experience for a potential customer of your product?
Great. Well, Flavio, during last months, we adapted our business in a more virtual experience, which made it easier for us to expand. So physical interaction with a person is a very small part of the journey, and that's why we began to partner with top-level clinics in different cities of Brazil that share our quality standards and have an additional capacity to share with us. So answering your question, we are present now in São Paulo with 6 locations, in Brasilia, Curitiba, Rio de Janeiro, Goiânia, Porto Alegre, Campinas, Jundiaí, and we're growing each month to reach more and more people in Brazil. So telling a little bit about our experience, basically, first step, you get impacted by a friend who is using Smilink, by an ad, by a press note, or maybe a dentist indication. From there, you schedule on our side a virtual consultation with a professional. Also, we ask you to send us photos. In that virtual consultation, we analyze if your case is treatable, and also answer all your doubts, technical and commercial. And in the case that you decide to proceed with the treatment, you will be sent to the unit which best fits for you to do a complete mouth scanning, which is basically like a scanning of your mouth. We take the mouth to a computer, and also X-rays. From that point, we plan the treatment and produce all the aligners, and in maximum 2 weeks, you receive all the treatment. With the treatment, you begin, and you have like 6 to 8 months to get the smile you are looking for. So basically, that's our journey. It's a simple journey, much more simple if you compare to traditional ways of doing orthodontics.
I can attest to that. I mean, 2 people in our team have actually gone through the process, and it has worked extremely well. And in my case, a person very close to myself had actually tried the normal treatments, the ones that are there, and it was much more expensive, much lengthier. She went through the 6-month period test, and it really works. So I can attest that what you're saying, it really works in the time that you say that it works. A peculiar investment because, if I'm not mistaken, our capital injection came in on the 9th of March, and the whole pandemic started 3 or 4 days after that. The following day, we had to sit again and change all the plans. You had an initial plan for the company, which was to expand through stores, physical stores and malls. Most of the spots and stores were negotiated already, but as I said, few days after our investment, we had to change the business plan. And I was really well impressed with how you reacted to the situation. I think it shows the kind of entrepreneur that you are. And it's been incredible. It's been an initial shock because, we had been planning for this expansion. Months ahead, you had to change the way that you were handling things. And now, a few months after the pandemic, you have larger revenues than you had before you started the pandemic. So it would be very interesting if you could share with us what happened in that period of time, how you reacted to such situation, which I think will help a lot of the other entrepreneurs. And what did you do to change and tweak the business plan to a new reality that we didn't expect before?
Perfect. Flavio, at the beginning of the pandemic, it was very hard. What was really, really hard, we had our model still supported by a totally offline experience. That is translated into a brutal drop in sales from 1 month to the next. But in the short term, we were forced us to reinvent ourselves, so to reduce unnecessary costs and adapt ourselves to this new world. What we have done, we began to do online pre-diagnosis, which was extremely positive. One, we increased the degree of consumer education with a low marginal cost, explaining like through online diagnosis to the customer how it works and every doubt they have. Then we began to receive only people suitable for this type of treatment, basically. Thus impressively optimizing our use of physical agendas and reducing time loss in people. And also this automatically translated in a huge advantage to be able to expand at a very low cost. So we basically increased the use of technology, which opened the door for us to escalate our business at a much more efficient capital deployment. And before the pandemic, as you know, as you mentioned, we were much smaller in revenues and in expansion. We were like with 3 locations, and we expand drastically our revenue. So it at the end was kind of positive in our business model. What happens?
Excellent. One of the things that drew our attention when we were talking to you, and we've been seeing how this has positively impacted the business, is the fact that you have been able to find ways to get to customers that aren't solely dependent on opening stores. You know, so you do have that today. You do have the online way to start off, but you also have created a way to reach out to customers using the part of the infrastructure that's already out there, you know, with the partnerships with the dentists and with the clinics. So how does that work today? You know, so I don't necessarily need to go to a Smilink store to be able to access your product, right? I can do that through partner programs, right?
Right. Well, we answering your question, Flavio, basically what we have changed is, one, we turn practically all the experience to an online experience, and given that, we could begin to expand through partners, not only like construction stores, which were very intensive in capital and in costs for us, and we decide to go through partners in very good locations, in very good clinics, with our standards, what allows us to expand very quick and in what I think a much more quality way. Because when we speak on a dental clinic, well established, they have processes, they have hygiene, they have everything we need, and we can focus our efforts in improving the experience, in improving the technology, and doing everything we need to deliver results. And that's why we go through that way, and that's how we can focus our efforts and capital and developing what really matters.
Do you think this model gives you a differential in terms of competition, and what kind of an increase have you seen during this pandemic of that way to access Smilink, you know, through the partnerships?
Okay, basically our differential is, what I think is, we need to be much more, we have been much more disciplined in our processes. We use orthodontics, we work with high-level clinics, and what I think it's a a great differential of Smilink is that we care very, very much the process in order to have good results. And going one step behind, basically, what you need to have good results is, one, you need a good diagnosis to see which cases you can treat and which not. Two, you need a good planning, which is all the computer work with orthodontists to plan your treatment. And I really think we have the best team in Brazil of planning. Three, you need to use good materials, good raw materials, and we use good raw materials. And four, and very important, you need discipline of the patient. And that's why we are launching an app this month in order to help the patient to be disciplined with the treatment. That's a challenge. That's the point in which we have less control and where we are working to improve. And something I want to mention, Flavio, which is very important, is by far we have like 1,000 treatments complete. That's why our effort and differentials are placed on having the best orthodontic professionals, finding the most experienced and in aligners and constantly training them, having the best team of orthodontists in planning, which is a very important part of our process, and also partnering with the best clinics in order to expand through Brazil, to afford more people, to expand in a low cost, and to maintain a high level of quality. And just an example, it's not the same to go by ourselves to, for example, Ribeirão Preto and put a store, invest a lot of money in a new store, invest a lot of money monthly in maintaining the store and not delivering the best quality. On the other side, what we are doing is using idle capacity in a top clinic with high standards, and we can go to another city with less investment, but at the same time with much more quality. And that's what we are doing. And that's what I think differentiates Smilink versus other companies.
So Marcos, today, if I want to have a beautiful smile, how much will it cost me? More or less. I know it depends, it varies, but more or less.
You will invest like 350 reais per month during 12 months. And we are working on lowering the prices in a near future.
Wow, that's impressive. Moving on, Marcos, to your entrepreneurial side, and I think you are a perfect example of an entrepreneur who really has had to find solutions to short-term problems, mid-term problems, long-term problems for everything that happened in the last 6 or 8 months. And again, we've been seeing that. We're really well impressed. I mean, it's not trivial for a company that expected to expand physically 6 months ago to have shifted its business model and have come out of that situation with even higher revenue. So we're really impressed with how you were able to deal with the situation. And I think a lot of the entrepreneurs have gone through similar challenges, and it's really valuable when you guys can share that experience with the rest of the entrepreneurs. So how did you deal emotionally with the pandemic, and how did that make you come out stronger?
Okay, Flavio, at the beginning of the pandemic was really hard, and obviously emotionally was very hard to afford for me because it was like something new and obviously negative. So as an entrepreneur, creating a company in an early stage was really difficult, but that difficult give us at the same time the strong to afford all that things, and at the end ended up in positive things. As I mentioned, basically we could like adjust our model in a much more online experience, and we also force ourselves on reducing all unnecessary costs and also redefining our strategy of how to grow the business. and focusing on what really matters, which at the end, in a market who does not know the product, was and is like showing that that product works. So our focus now, and in part thanks to the pandemic, is working hard on delivering results. What people want are results at a convenient cost and in an effective way and good experience. So that's our focus, and that's like the main learning of that lockdown period of the pandemic.
And how did the pandemic fast track or accelerate the adoption of new technologies or new solutions for your business? Things that you were probably thinking more in the long-term future, but that you had to try, and it ended up showing you that the market is ready for that, and you're implementing that right away.
Perfect. Well, part of the challenge of a startup is like just going out of the comfort zone every time you get it, you know. So when we began the model, we began with stores, like people going there, and everything was like going really well. And that stress we get with the pandemic and we lose our structural things with the offline model. We jump out of the comfort area zone, and we were very stressed and also motivated to use the technology to improve that things to survive in a different environment. So we use a lot the technology, basically in all what matters with the customer experience. We improve it and we adapt it in the short term to the new reality.
Excellent. And Marcos, what are your expectations for Smilink for the next months or years? I mean, and maybe throw out a few numbers. You know, how many treatments you expect to do, how many people you expect to reach out to, and how this can help people, you know, who didn't have access to this kind of treatment before and now they do. So what are your personal expectations for the company looking forward in the next months and years?
Great. Flavio, I think we have a very interesting product and technology, and a very good team to develop that market. And I really expect to democratize the orthodontic treatments to all Brazilians. That's a combination of expansion, being present in all the cities in which we can reach our people, and reducing our costs. So we are working very hard on reducing costs through technology in order to achieve in the future better and better prices, to achieve more people for improving the smiles with that technology. So what I expect is like Brazil going through the adoption curve of the US, like reaching like from 2-3% of penetration of that category to like 40%. And I expect with Smilink to lead that market, reaching out a leading player in the sector. And that's throughout people using the product and having a lot of people suggesting our product to our ones, because the product and the service we provide, man, it's fantastic. So I hardly believe the people who is using will promote our product, and we will grow very fast. So if I have to think in a timeline, I think in 4 or 5 years, the market will be in Brazil really developed like it is in the US, and like thinking on what we are doing and how we are doing, I think we will lead that market in the future.
Marcos, what as an entrepreneur, what has been, I mean, your major challenges? I know there are many, but probably list just a few. Again, thinking about other entrepreneurs that might be listening to this and might want to get learned lessons from this. So what have been your major challenges, and what have been your major learnings as an entrepreneur since you started Smilink?
Okay, Flavio, I think the best learning are through mistakes in general, because you really feel them, you know. So I think that, like most entrepreneurs in their first ventures, I made several mistakes, like, for example, not having a clear marketing strategy before launching, not having a complete team before launching. So I also think the positive part of this is that when you discover the damage that your mistakes generate, you move heaven and earth to correct it, and that makes you really stronger. And I think that's the point where we are now, stronger in all the things we were weaker on the beginning. Answering direct to your question, basically, my great challenge, I can summarize it in one word, which is convincing team members, customers, investors, suppliers. So convincing people in general it's a huge challenge as an entrepreneur. I'm always like looking on the way on convincing people on things I'm really convinced. I need to communicate this and convince people every day. And thinking on great learnings, basically, I think a very important learning is find the right people to start together. Try not to be alone. I suffer that in the beginning, but thanks God, it's already an overcome stage. So, but it was a great learning. I started alone, and I create a great team. But as a learning, if I have to do a next startup, a next company in the future, I will begin with a strong team from zero. That's very important. Yeah, that's it.
Perfect. So I mean, it's funny because a lot of the people have this misconception that if you have a technology company, then you don't need people, or people are less relevant. But at the end of the day, I think for all businesses and for our relationships, it boils down to people. You know, how you manage your team, how you hire a team, how you motivate them, how you convince them. So it seems like I mean, it's very common with most of the startups. It's just finding the right people at the right time for that company. Yeah. And in that direction, what kind of advice would you give to someone who wants to start a company right now, or looks to be an entrepreneur starting from zero?
I think it's very important. I think the best suggestion I can give is like, just get the right partners and start. Being prepared is very important. But at the end, most of the things you will learn will be during your journey as an entrepreneur. So I think there is a lack of people like starting. You need to start. You want to be an entrepreneur, you know this, just start. And then you will go through a lot of stress, a lot of challenges, a lot of things, but at the end, you will be continuous learning about this, and you will be growing through what you really like, which is starting a company. And in my case, for example, I love to start up, and I think like most of the things I have learned through the way. So just starting is very important.
Perfect. It seems like an obvious advice, but it isn't. I mean, a lot of the people have great ideas, but they can never start anything. You know, they're overcautious, and they think about everything that could go wrong, and many things will go wrong. But if you don't start, then you don't even have the opportunity to figure out what goes wrong and what can go right. Right. Okay. So that's excellent advice. Marcos, I'm running out of questions. This has been a great interview. Again, I love the fact that we invest in a company that was built to put smile on people's faces. Please go ahead and, I mean, convey any final words or message that you would like to say. And I thank you again. I mean, it's been so far a short journey because we invested in the beginning of the year, but it's been incredible. So thanks again, Marcos. Go ahead, please put out some final words.
Okay, Flavio, thank you very much for the interview. It was very interesting. And my advice is, like, for those of you who haven't tried Smilink yet, I'm extremely convinced on what we are doing. So I suggest doing it, the treatment. You really are going to be impressed with our technology and experience, which is amazing. And in fact, we have fans of the brands, which is amazing for a new brand. So try and do it. It's amazing.
Thank you very much, Marcos. So with this, we will end this interview with Marcos Boysen, CEO for Smilink, company that helps you put smiles in people's faces. It's been an honor, Marcos. Thank you very much for your time. And we'll see you again in another episode of One-on-One. Thank you very much.